Boom! Hey, I'm Thundercloud, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains, everybody knows. Mum calls me James. Welcome to Chillin Tuesday here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame in Guyra. On the mountain high, there's not much higher than here in Guyra. Well, there is. You see, I suppose that'd be Mount Kosciuszko or whatever they want to call that place. Anyway, what have I got for tonight? I've got a zip tie on the floor underfoot, yes, and apart from that, poetry, yes. Let's get the show underway by first acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which I broadcast, the Kamilaroi people, and acknowledge the continuing connection to the land of the elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. Yeah, I'm going to turn on an above light. Oh, I've seen the lights. All of them. Yeah, they're everywhere. Okay, what have we got happening here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame? Have a look at this. Yes, comedy hypnotist will look into my eyes. Wayne Pringle at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. Yes, that's true. On this day here, the 12th of November at 7:30 to 9, and there'll be food available as well, and it'll be really funny. And you better get your tickets now before they sell out. Now, apart from that, well, what else have I got for you? Poetry. Yes, it's true. Tonight, I've got a little bit prepared for you here before your very eyes, much to your delight and surprise. Books have arrived here. Yes, today I was very fortunate to have a visit from Newcastle poet Wayne Pringle, author of Wherever You May Be, a book of poetry, and Sunday Afternoon at My Place, another book of poetry. Yes, and guess what? Wayne kindly donated his 2 books of poetry to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame archive and library here. So here we go, that's Wayne. That's his first book. I'll just come around here. That's him sitting on a rock in a cave. There, wherever you may be. And this one, this is like the modern Wayne, not sitting on a rock, but sitting under a sign, Sunday Afternoon at My Place. And this is the one that I met today, more like him than like that. But he just happened to be passing through Guyra, and he saw the op shop, and he stopped for the op shop, and then he saw the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. And he's come in, and he's amazed, and he's impressed, and he's seen my big portrait gallery full of portraits of poets and poetry and poet information. And he's gone, wow, you're doing a great job here. Thank you very much, Wayne. Thank you very much for this. Now, the other thing is, well, because, you know, he donated to the Poetry Library. Well, look, I've published this book, Poetry to End Prohibition, 4/20/2020 edition, and it's all about harm minimisation, because I've got a duty of care. We all have a duty of care to minimise harm, not just to ourselves, but to other people. So, Poetry to End Prohibition was written as a dedication to Daniel Walmsley, a young fella that overdosed on something about 6 weeks after I arrived in Nimbin in 2017 in June and or July. And anyway, so I committed to writing this book about harm minimisation and poetry. So I'll be reading out of that later. Well, as well as Wayne Pringle, yours truly, I've also got here before me, and this was sent over last week all the way from Perth, Mulla Presses, Perth Poet, 10 years of the Perth Poetry Club, Recoil number 10. I'll be reading 2 poems out of that one tonight. As well as that, excuse me, I'm also going to focus on a couple of poets out of here, a couple of classic Australian poets. James McAuley, who was responsible for the Angry Penguins Melly affair, one of Australia's greatest literary scandals, apart from that Sheila that Demedenko got wrote under a different name, but like who cares? Anyway, and then the other one will be Rosemary Dobson. I'll be reading a Rosemary Dobson, The Three Fates to you. And pretty much, and finally, I'll be finishing off with some of my this week's poetry, just for a little bit of lightness at the end. Because we can all do with a little bit of lightness in our life. And more interesting lives. Yeah, well, that's what I'm here to do. Make life interesting through poetry. Yes, that's right. Right. Well, first of all, I'm going to start by a striptease. Actually, we've got a heater on above me. Which has now gone off, but I don't need a jumper on in here because it's, even though we're chilling on a Tuesday, it's actually quite warm here in Guyra tonight. We got up to 17 today, and it'll only go down to about 9 tonight. Well, whoo, warm, yes, I'll be able to almost walk around naked. Anyway, but I'm going away next week, yes, so there will be no Chillin Tuesday from here at all. No, there won't be, because I'll be away. There'll also be no Wednesday words next week. Right, I'm here to do poetry, so I'm going to get a reel on and poe. We're going to start with Wayne Pringle's excuse me. A croak in my throat. Right. Wayne Pringle's Review, maybe. Poems and short stories. This was one that Wayne said people particularly like. It's a bit of a crowd favourite, and it's based on a true story. It's called The Currawong with the Condom. Wayne said he particularly prefers writing in rhyming and metered poetry because it's easy to remember, it's easy for other people to remember, etc, etc. So that's his preference. We're all different, and we'll be doing some other stuff later on. Let's start with The Currawong with the Condom. I was on a walk not far from a campground used by city slickers. Ground that provides an easy meal for many bush-type critters. And to say I saw some currawongs wouldn't come as to any surprise, for the damn things are a pest with their scavenging beady eyes. On this morning the noisy beasts were carrying on a treat, so I thought that there must have been something for them to eat. Then there was, it stopped me in my tracks and explained this feathered throng. For in the centre of all the commotion was a currawong with a condom. It was perched on a branch about 20 foot from the ground, and his yellow eyes were darting all around. I didn't need my binos to see what he held in his claw, and I can tell you too it wasn't new, it had been used before. And every couple of seconds he'd bob down for a stab, and would-be thieves positioned themselves for a fly-by grab. But just as quickly he'd raise his head and screech to his treacherous friends. It was clear to me he had no intentions of sharing his ill-gotten dividends. Every time he had a peck, the Currawong chorus would ignite. A feathered frenzy, all intent on tasting some of his delight. But he wasn't prepared to give it up nor share one single drop until he ripped the package open. He wasn't about to stop. From where I sat upon a lichen-covered rock, I had an excellent view of the Currawong and his soggy rubber sock. I could see that he'd ripped a hole getting larger with every stab, and his neck would stiffen, his throat would quiver as he swallowed every dab. Then he must have thought the damn thing had suddenly come alive, for he smashed it against the limb 3, 4, maybe 5. Oh, I thought it's going to be all over the place. The last thing I wanted was somebody else's jism all over my face. So I pulled the peak of my wide-brimmed hat down over my eyes just to protect myself from any far-flung sticky surprise. I needn't have bothered really, didn't need a protective brolly because it hung up there and underneath that branch like a schoolyard golly. And it grew and grew as it stretched under its own weight 5, 6 inches, then snapped as it reached around 8, and a flurry of feathers dive-bombed as each Currawong took their turn, but it crashed through the undergrowth and hung itself off a leaf of a bracken fern. Well, I thought that'd be the end when I glanced back towards the branch, but lo and behold, that silly Currawong himself was doing a hula dance. He had the ring of the franger wrapped around his beak, trying to shake his head from side to side, trying to scratch it off with his feet. With a toss of his head, he flung that franger like a frisbee through the air. It was just like a starter's gun as the Currawongs came from everywhere, and one of the desperate buggers in the swooping stakes was a little better. As he scooped it up, he was off in a flash with his very own stolen French letter. Well, the only Currawong here now was the one who did the deed. He sat there licking his chops as though he just had the best ever feed. And what about the former owners? Are they still looking for it still? When he took it off, did he say, "I'll fix it in the morning, I will"? And even though the bludgeoning Currawong is like a bowerbird, if I tell this story, friends say it's the tallest they've ever heard. But these days when I'm in the scrub and I hear that familiar song, I can't help thinking of the day I saw the Currawong with the condom. Yes, okay. Wayne Pringle from wherever you are, the Currawong with that condom. Okay, now I'm going to read one of Wayne's more recent book, Sunday Afternoon at My Place, by Wayne Pringle, published by Wayne Pringle in 2021. The poems and stories in this book are copyright to Wayne, and Wayne said I could read out of this tonight, so I do have his spoken permission, because he did write 3 cheers to the Poetry Hall of Fame, Wayne Pringle. Yes, so he was here. Yes, he was here. Thylacine. That's a Tasmanian tiger, if you don't know. There's no reason to keep searching, so I've been told, wrap yourself up and light a fire. Come in from the cold. The frost lies heavy on the ground, there's ice in the air. I don't know where to look. I don't know if you're there. I can hear the devil calling all through the long night in the untamed wilderness that once marked your birthright. Its weeping is eternal, a sadness without end. Your lonely home knows it will never see you again. I search the wilds of the gullies and rivers where you roamed, with ancient people who knew you and shared your home. Your land is still beautiful, but it reeks of a loss. It's the stink of a white man's stubborn double cross. It was ignorance and lies from people who didn't know, hunted and destroyed and finally placed on show. And there it was that your existence came to an end. It grieves me like no other, and I'll never see you again. Now that you've gone, you've become somewhat of a star. You're as famous as the dodo, another human scar. Your image is on everything from hospitals to beer. You're the logo of the people who made you disappear. It feels strange to say I miss you when I never even saw you except for an old grainy film of you pacing in the zoo. Thousands of years of evolution, wild and proud to the end, and I'm so sorry that I will never see you again. Here we go. And the last one in the book here. Oh, second last. You talk too much. You asked me to write a poem for you. Okay, I will. But you'll have to be quiet while I do. I can't concentrate with you going on all the time. You're like a squeaky wheel with a persistent whine. You want a poem? Well, shush while I think. Your noise is enough to turn a bloke to drink. How about I start with she who never shuts up? Well, it's true that you never let up. Oh, blah, 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 you're like a broken record. The drone of your voice just makes me so bored. I don't know how much more I can take. Your non-stop talking is worse than a toothache. Oh, okay, I'll write something for you now. Mumbling on under my breath, bloody cow. What's that? No, I didn't say that. Don't try now to start a spat. Do you have to go on and on about it? It's like a never-ending verbal king hit. What's that? You don't want a poem about you now. Come on, be quiet. I'll show you how. Don't spit the dummy, you cranky thing. Just stop talking, stop rattling the tin. Your jaw will ache, your throat will get swollen. You remind me of the stuff that comes out of your colon. Oh, for Christ's sake, can't you clean up? If you want to know something, then I'll give you a heads up. You talk too much, yeah, you. You just keep going and going until your face turns blue. You fill the room with words, it's like a floating menagerie of turds. Just give it a rest and I'll write something for you instead of screeching like a bloody cockatoo. Hang on a minute, where are you going now? Oh, middle finger salute, that's highbrow. Well, goodbye then, but don't say I didn't try. Here, take a tissue if you're gonna cry. I didn't really mean to be nasty. I know you're deep down a lovely lassie, and I'll promise I'll write a poem for you soon. When you stop blabbering like a bloody baboon. You could talk the leg off a cast iron pot. You need to draw breath before your poffle valve pops. Oh, okay, that's it. I'm through with this crap. Your flapping tongue is like a bloody fly trap. I don't get it at all. I said was that you talked a lot. Now you've hit the roof like a bloody crackpot. So I don't know about this poem for you. I don't know what to write, I don't know what to do, but okay, I'll try to make something up, but only if you shut the bloody hell up. I like that one. Yeah. Ah, you talk too much. By Wayne Pringle. And then, okay, you're the nicest person that I ever met. This is really interesting because the actual etymology of the word nice comes from a word which actually meant fool. So when you see someone, nice car, it's like a fool, because they're identifying the car with themselves as their persona. And you're not a car, you're actually a spirit within a body. You're the nicest person that I've ever met. You're the nicest person that I've ever met, even though I haven't met everyone yet. You make me smile when I just see your face. There's elegance about you that's all full of grace. You carry an aura when you just walk on by. You're the flowers in the park and the birds in the sky. You have a pleasant nature. It's seen in your smile. A minute with you is a minute worthwhile. Your energy is lively, it's your inner glow, and you're beautiful. Yes, I can't let that go. You're beautiful on the inside with a beautiful soul. You make me feel human. You make me feel whole. You're the blue sky, the sunshine, the cool summer breeze. You're the air that breathes a light in the fruit on the trees. You're the eyes are the stars that light the pathway at night. Everywhere you go, you turn the dark into light. You're generous and thoughtful and caring and kind. I hope there's never any doubt in your mind. Please don't think that I'm being out of line, but everything about you I think is just fine. Now I doubt we'll get to see each other again, but I hope you think of me every now and then. Knowing you is one thing I'll never forget, because you're the nicest person that I've ever met. That's a lovely positive poem, that one, and I like it. Okay. Have I got one more from Wayne? Okay, a random one from Wayne. Living away from you. The light's flickering. I have to turn the lights off. One of them. Now I'm in the dark. But I'll move back so you can still see me a bit. I've seen the man, the lonely man, who feels he's a stranger here. His eyes portrayal, his lonely life, of that of an unknowing fear. I've seen him sit on the lake's edge, his dreamers living elsewhere. The ducks and swans swim right by as if he wasn't even there. It's plain to me what the problem is. I'm sure you can see it too. He's lost his spirit. His spirit's lost, living away from you. I've seen the man along the lake. He walks the shoreline miles. It seems to me wears a mask portraying a friendly smile. For hiding behind is a memory of a time only he knows well. When he thinks back, it makes his heart with love and pride swell. But those days seem gone, he waits in vain. Perhaps he sees it too. He's lost, his spirit's lost, living away from you. I've seen the man turn to stone. His tears filled the lake each year. His soul was returned to the land, waiting for you to appear. The swans search the shoreline, certain you'll be found there. They'll carry you across on their backs, a soft feathered chair. They'll sit you down on sacred ground so you can see it too. He's lost, his spirit's lost, living away from you. Wow, that's lovely. I like that one. Wayne Pringle, everyone. Sunday afternoon at my place. You can, honestly, I don't know how to get a copy of this apart from looking up Wayne online and, yeah, and giving him a message. All right. So, moving along. Recoil 10. So we're here on a Chillin Tuesday. I'm here on a Chillin Tuesday and you're there. We're here in the world being humans, and I have the Recoil 10 edited by Coral Carter of the Perth Poetry Club, which is held every Saturday 2 to 4 at the Moon Cafe in William Street, Northbridge, Western Australia. And Recoil 10 celebrates a decade of diversity with poems selected from Western Australia, interstate, overseas and guest poets as well as regular feeders. The strength of Perth Poetry Club lies in acceptance, which has created a welcoming community to poets of all abilities and poetry of all forms. Everyone's welcome at the Perth Poetry Club, where slams and sonnets meet. Yes, okay. This is published by Mulla Press last year. In 2019. All right, and we'll go to the one that I've marked here. Okay, this is by Arran Lodge, and it was first published in Recoil 5. This is called Tides of the Mind. I touch a shadow. It ripples out. Expansive, looming spectre, pledging my immunity to the dark emotions. We mourn for a moment gone, words that fell silent. This deep connection making us whole, I fear it eaten away, waves washing over us, that which we do not speak, barely put a finger on it, know all too well. Righteous hollow echoes on a tin wall, tides spreading through the mind. Eerie moments float on the wind, laced like sugar, a heaviness, grappling linguistic anomalies, masking the deeper soul, primal bird biting off complexities. Somewhere between simple words, silence, and ruminations on a ship pitching and rolling apart for the cycle of the moon. Deep within we find ourselves. Tides of the Mind by Arran Lodge from Recoil 10. Terry Farrell from Recoil 2, this is Wounded Bird. Wounded Bird. As the impossible universe I'm going to start this again. Wounded Bird. As the impossible universe accelerates and expands into its dark apron, as the countless white hot stars emit their light into the tiny pores of space, as the earth orbits the sun, twirling eastward and stealing time, as the ocean vast and true wraps its arm around the molten core, as a flock of white galahs fly the shoreline, as the morning sky turns blue, then blue sky pink, turns the blue sky pink, as I remember you and all that happened between us, the wounded bird sits, watching on, ever vigilant, ever hopeful, forever trying. Powerful, I like that one. Yes, of course, that's why I've chosen it. Now, we're getting along. Right, before I go into my classic, 60 classic Australian poems, and I'm going to read James McAuley and Rosemary Dobson to you, I am going to talk about a really important topic. It's more important than even poetry. In fact, it's so important, I wrote a book about it. It's called Poetry to End Prohibition. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware, but down there in the Australian Capital Territory, they've just ended prohibition or decriminalised the use of drugs. Well, all drugs. This means that, well, one, politicians won't get in trouble for using it, but it also means that they can treat drug dependency and abuse as a health issue, as it ought to be, and work towards minimising harm. Now, before I came here to Guyra, I lived 2.5 years, nearly 3 years in Nimbin, one of the cannabis capital of Australia, but also one of the places, the cutting edge places of the movement towards end prohibition and legalise, well, cannabis, but also ending prohibition in general. And the reason is because when we end prohibition, people don't have to hide their problem, and we can work towards harm minimisation, and people can then, there's less stigma attached with drug dependency, and then people can get help when they decide to. We can also begin education programs about prohibition. Now, the reason I write this, because I wrote this book because a young man, Daniel Walmsley, who was 26, OD'd about 6 weeks after I arrived in Nineveh. Now I'm going to read this, and it's traumatic. So there's a warning for you. It was traumatic for me at the time. I'm over it now, and I hold on to my trauma. Started on a cold Friday night. The drumming, circle, dance and play, all the families gathered round barefoot on the cold hard ground. Drummers drumming, having fun, stomping feet, down goes the sun, fires burning in the parks, shooting stars and burning sparks. Rhythmic hands all beat it out, the drumming circle dance about, nimbin on a Friday night, drum and dance by firelight. They bring their drums out to the street where dancing feet move to the beat. Dreadlock smokes a clean and green, he beats his blue drum with the team down by the fire at the oasis. There's lots of friendly friends and faces. Here, try this hit. It won't hurt you. He overdoses and starts to spew. He starts the walk to hospital. I'm ODing, he starts to call. He falls down onto the cold, hard ground, and in his vomit, he starts to drown. The nurse and passers-by all thump on his heart. They start to pump. Call an ambulance, they cry. Daniel, Daniel, please don't die. CPR. The people start giving breath and pumping heart. Police and ambulance arrive for 45 minutes. We all tried. Sun comes up. Cold Saturday. Daniel's soul flies away, leaving behind broken hearts, drawings and paintings of Daniel's arts. Overdosed on cold concrete, laying dead with cold, bare, blue feet. End prohibition right now, today. Harm minimisation saves lives, we say. Laying on the whole cold, hard ground. His heart stopped, just shut down. His life might be a memory. But let's end prohibition for future and all safety. Well, one of the most insidious aspects of prohibition is that people use substances without knowing the dangerous effects of them. Now, a recent study that's only come out this week has shown, and Adelaide researchers have made a world first link between methamphetamine use and Parkinson's disease. And so they're going to be putting that on pizza boxes down there in Adelaide. New research, just in it briefly, reveals meth and Parkinson's disease link. Almost half of users do not know the health impacts. So that's why I'm talking about it now. I have a duty of care. I know the health impacts. I know how important it is, because there are people out there that this can get to. So please, just tell people, share this information about, because we don't need a future generation of people walking around shaking with Parkinson's disease, please. So, just said, Professor Gabriel Todd said her study was the first to demonstrate the link between humans after it was discovered in animals decades ago. She said consuming methamphetamine as little as 5 times could have lasting effects on brain regions that control movement. Methamphetamine is a drug that damages particular neurons in the brain, and these are the same neurons that are set of neurons that are damaged by Parkinson's disease. Meth is actually so good at damaging these neurons that scientists used to use the drug as an animal model for Parkinson's disease. There's a very clear scientific link between the effects of the drug on those neurons, and there's also a lot of other clinical and epidemiological data to support the link as well. She said meth use also impacted the health of the heart, the kidneys, as well as increased risk of stroke. She said it was concerning that many methamphetamine users were unaware of the long-term impacts of the drug would have on their health. Surveys show that 47% of people aren't aware that using ice has long-term health impacts. Ice and methamphetamine use across this state is a huge issue. We know the impact it's having on communities and families, she said. On Monday night, the government will roll out a new campaign, Don't Take Meth, Take Hold, in the light of new evidence, and there will be 20,000 ads printed on pizza boxes. It's the best thing that we can do to stop people using meth, and this campaign is a part of that. Now, there's another article here on the effects of meth on the body. Well, one, it can increase your dopamine by 10 to 1,000 times. Now, sugar, 1.5 times. Coca-Cola, something like 3 times. Cocaine, 3 times. Chocolate, 2 times. Meth, 10 to 1,000 times. So that's why users feel all clear and then they feel the absolute opposite when they have their come down. They feel all foggy but that's only part of it. People can smoke it, they can swallow a pill, they can drink it, they add it to alcohol. But the effects, the long-term effects, and this is what's really important. About 1/4 of regular meth users will experience psychosis, symptoms of psychosis, which includes feeling overly suspicious, having strange beliefs about things that are not plausible, or hearing or seeing things that are not there. So, as well as having headaches, blurred vision, feeling hungry, feeling flat, jittery, depressed and anxious. This is on the come down. And people with schizophrenia are far more likely to experience psychosis after using meth. Once users start to take ice at higher doses or more frequently, the pleasurable effects tend to give way to less pleasurable ones. Yeah. So, and you may start to feel jumpy, anxious, hostile, aggressive, which can escalate into feelings of intense paranoia or psychotic episode. And the last thing, and this is my words, the last thing that any drug user needs is your judgment. They need your acceptance, they need love, they need your friendship, and they do not. No drug user needs anyone's judgment. They need acceptance, because the opposite of addiction is connection. Connection to friends, to family, to your community, and to a sense of purpose. And when you've got that, then there is no need to self-abuse, to commit long-term slow suicide through using this terrible, dangerous substance, meth, just like cigarettes and alcohol, all three of them self-harming, awful things that should not be in our society, but it's your choice if you decide to use them with knowing full well the dangers. Then it's a free world, and that's a free choice that you are making. All right, on that note, please, I beg, do not take meth, whatever. No excuses, nothing. Get help if you need it, please. This is from my book, Poetry to End Prohibition. Just one. Just one word. One action. Just one man or woman. Just one moment. Just one decision. Ask just one question. Just is everything. Just us. Just standing as one. Just ice. Just ice rings. Just one dealer. Just one profiting. Just one life skating on thin ice. Is there any justice, or is it just us? Just us on ice, just not nice. Just mandatory reporting of ice, no justice. Just your kids, they need protection, just taken away. Not just ice, just medicated mummy. No, just ice. Just legalise drugs would be nice. Just harm minimise. Just legalise. Is it just ice? Is it just us? Is there any justice? It is unjust. Just end prohibition. Justice is unjust. An oasis. Nicotine. Stop smoking, Chewed cocaine, sugar, lemonade. A can of Coke adds life, maybe. Smoking harms your unborn baby. Coffee injected in a vein. These scissors feel no pain. I haven't had a hangover since stopping alcohol. Mushroom down a rabbit hole, MDMA, pingers, ecstasy, and a giant Shiva cannabis tree. Oil, hash, cookies, more. It's amazing what you can score. LSD once, twice or thrice, and you should never, ever touch the ice. Bliss balls, hemp balls, chai and more. But friends is the best thing that you can score in any oasis. Yes, friends is the best score that you will ever have. Legalise, let us. Legalise, harm minimalise, decriminalise, legitimise. No more drug war, no more money spent policing, chasing innocence, relaxing, recreational and healing little herb like lettuce. Like lettuce? Lettuce, yes, lettuce. Let us eat a seed of a harmless little weed. Let us make a tea, oil of a flower from a tree. Let us share it all about. Cannabis can heal your gout. Let us stop consuming poisons for their tax. Legalise. Harm minimise, decriminalise, legitimise. No more inmates, no more prisons, no more social engineering, chasing innocence, reacting, relaxing, victimising, homegrown medicine and healing little food like lettuce. Lettuce? Yes, lettuce. Let us smoke cannabis, bombs and pipes of cannabis. Eat our cannabis, oil of a flower from a tree. Let us share it all about. Cannabis may heal your gout. Let us stop consuming poisons for their tax. All right. And this last one, well, that I'll probably do tonight. second last one from my book, Poetry to End Prohibition, Ice. This is dedicated to Nicolette Papadopoulos of the Nimbin Oasis, ex-Nimbin of the Nimbin Oasis, who asked me to write something to reclaim the word ice as the meaning for our sacred water and the source of all life in its frozen state. There's this stuff that's pure and crystalline. Frozen water's called ice. Cools you on a hot day, makes you feel nice. Ice is a frozen snowflake, hail, and an igloo. But methamphetamine should be called brain-frying glue. I was walking down the street with a bag of party ice. He joked, "Get out of our town, we don't want you dealing ice." It made me feel sad that our water, clean and pure, is now the slang for crystal meth. A poison, that's for sure. Because water gives you energy and cleans you, that's for sure, but crystal meth fries your brain and is so impure. I went along my way and added water to my ice. I drank it up and I cooled down. I was feeling nice. A thirsty stranger came along with a thirsty daughter. I poured them both a glass of ice with cold water. After one sip, both their eyes lit up. We are feeling so much better with ice water in our cup. I am feeling great and no longer feeling down. My daughter drank her icy water, no longer wears a frown. I hear the cops in New South Wales are corrupt and dealing meth. They have ulterior motives to addict the youth to death. Cannabis will soon be legal and the cops are worried about KPIs, so dealing meth will keep them in employment and the prisons full. That's why they're dealing death. We can end the prohibition and minimise the harm, then the coppers will not need to search you and twist your arm. If we end drug prohibition right across the nation, we'd get rid of corrupt coppers and 80% of the prison population. Make safe access to safe drugs a right and make it safe and clean as water falling from the sky and snowflakes so pristine. Let's all stop the drug war and the coppers dealing death and claim the word ice once more for frozen water and not crystal meth. Well, so, really interesting that in here. Now, everybody knows that within every police force around the world, there are those corrupt ones. Some police forces more than others and some not. Well, here in New South Wales, the police minister's brothers, two brothers, the police minister's two brothers were just busted running an ice ring. One of them, and the other one was busted with ice of dealing it. I don't know exactly the situation, but they're both facing court. And this is the police minister's brothers. Now, if there's not a conflict of interest there, I don't know what is. Now, there are also rumours that I've heard, and this is only hearsay, that throughout Western New South Wales, there is a cartel of a particular group of corrupt coppers. And who, over many years, and this is hearsay from people that I've spoken to on the inside of when I lived in Nimbin, right, where they would grow a certain amount of, say, $40,000 worth of marijuana, or 80,000, and they'd have to give 40,000, half of it to the police, right, and then the police sold it under the table, whatever. But then when they found out that marijuana was going to be legalised, they decided to go into meth production. One, because it allows them to focus on the bottom of the thing, the users, and then put them into prison in the prison industrial complex and raise their KPIs, right? And if you're dealing to the users, then you know who they are, and you won't, of course, bust the dealers, because if you are a corrupt cop and you're the dealer, well, you're not going to bust yourself, are you? Anyway, this is only hearsay, and I'm not making any claims against any particular one or group of police. However, there are a lot of people out there, and it's not me, who have told me that this happens. And we've got evidence, in a way, because the police minister's brothers have been busted, right? So, there is no independent commission in New South Wales into police corruption. And there is a commission into political corruption, but they don't actually investigate the police. It's one of, and this is a hearsay again, I've heard, there's a very corrupt police force. But, hey, I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody or at the New South Wales police force. I'm just repeating what I've been told many times from many different sources, which I will not repeat any of my sources, because that's how it is. Now, I'm in a position here to say ending prohibition takes away the incentive to make black market money under the table. Ending prohibition takes away the incentive for people to be put in prison. Ending prohibition means that people can get help. Ending prohibition eliminates cartels from drug crime. Yeah, they might have to go into other kinds of crime, or they might just cease to exist. Yes, but prohibition of anything, people always find another way around it. Right, end of my rant. I'm going to do more poetry now. 60 classic Australian poems. We got. Here we go, I'll just adjust the camera. Don't forget the comedy hypnosis show here with Wayne Pringle coming up November the 12th. It's going to be really, 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 really good. Alright, this one's called Because. It was written by James McAuley, born in 1917 and died in 1976. About James McAuley, he was a controversial figure in Australian poetry, politics and culture. He was one of the two hoaxes in the Malley affair. He later was a founder of Quadrant magazine, and many people are still arguing about him, like now, a long time after his death. And there are a few who dispute the merits of his best poems. Among those is certainly Because, from his collection of Surprises from the Sun. Okay, Because by James McAuley. My father and mother never quarrelled. They were united in a kind of love. As daily as the Sydney Morning Herald, rather than like the eagle or the dove. I never saw them casually touch or show a moment's joy in one another. Why should this matter to me now so much? I think it bore more hardly on my mother, who had more generous feelings to express. My father had dammed up his Irish blood against all drinking, praying frecklessness, and stiffened into stone and creaking wood. His lips would make a switching sound as though spontaneous impulse must be kept at bay. That it was mainly weakness I see now, but then my feelings curled back in dismay. Small things can pit the memory like a cyst. Having seen other fathers greet their sons, I put my childish face up to be kissed. After an absence, the rebuff still strums. My blood, the poor man's curt embarrassment at such a delicate proffer of affection, cut like a sore, but home the lesson went, my tenderness thenceforth escaped detection. My mother sang Because and Annie Laurie, White Wings and other songs. Her voice was sweet. I never gave enough and I am sorry, but we were all closed in the same defeat. People do what they can, they were good people. They cared for us and loved us once they stood. Tall in my childhood as the school, the steeple, how can I judge without ingratitude? Judgment is simply trying to reject a part of what we are because it hurts. The living cannot call the dead collect, they won't accept the charge and it reverts. It's my own judgment day that I draw near, descending in past without a clue, down to that cultural deadness, the despair, older than any hope I ever knew. So although McAuley was a Catholic convert, or perhaps because of that, because is a classic statement of secular Protestantism, a widely prevalent belief in Australia, especially among those who grow up in the shadow of 2 world wars and the Great Depression. It's about restraint, duty, self-discipline and repeated patterns. Sometimes it's called strength of character. But McAuley correctly sees that in his father's case, and perhaps many others, it was mainly weakness. Of course, McAuley in this explicitly autobiographical poem cannot escape it himself, either for all his Catholicism, how can I judge without ingratitude, but we were all closed in the same defeat. It's paradoxical then that out of such a defeat McAuley has wrought the triumph of this poem. It's a triumph that not only out of technique, which is seemingly effortless A-B-A-B, iambic pentameter quatrains, so loved by Australian poets of his generation, but of tone. McAuley has caught the exact resonance of the worldview he's describing, its greyness, its dryness, its extraordinary containment. A love as daily as the Sydney Morning Herald is just the first of its features. Not for these people at the soaring edge of the cooing doves. In the poem's final stanza, which I'll read out to you now, becomes unbearable. Descending in the past without a clue, down to the central deadest, that despair, older than any hope I ever knew. Written by a Catholic, supposedly certain of resurrection, these lines seem even more depressing. But they're so deeply convincing, a miserable childhood is not easily recovered from. Of course, McAuley does more than offer merely tone as an explanation for the way things were. He understands that only too well his father's reaction to drinking, praying, frecklessness, and how damaging such behaviours often were in the Irish blood, in which Protestants of the period thought they were so prevalent. The tragedy is that such caution and good sense led to not to something like the eagle or dove, but merely to stone and creaking wood. This stiffness is most memorably in the poem's central episode where the young boy is refused his father's kiss. Note, too, in passing, the brutal rhyme of kissed with cyst. We see from this yet another lifetime of containment will follow. My tenderness thenceforth escaped detection. It's important to note that although McAuley is more sympathetic to his mother, on whom it bore more hardly, he does not unreasonably blame his father. People do what they can, they were good people, they cared for us and loved us. And in any case, what would be the point? The living cannot call the dead collect. The fact remains, however, that the poet is still descending to that central deadness. There seems to be no escape despite what we may know of the poet's life, beliefs from outside the poem. Other factors in the triumph of Because are its conversational leisureliness, its sincerity. Macaulay seems almost to be musing to himself, or perhaps more accurately, confiding to a trusted friend about the limitations of his childhood and their permanent impact. The poem starts with a plain statement: "My father and mother never quarrelled," and continues with several others: "I never saw them casually touch. I never gave enough and I am sorry," and so on. Macaulay's in no hurry. He's going to give us all the relevant information in his own time, using his leisurely pentameters rather than shorter or tighter. Conversely, he's going to display the same self-discipline with his ABAB rhyme scheme that his parents imposed on themselves. There are admittedly some half-rhymes here and there, but in a way that these serve to perversely to remind us of the rigidity of the others. It's only fair, after all, that the son of a father who dammed up his Irish blood should allow himself a few half-rhymes. It's interesting too to see how the ABAB rhyme scheme seems to strengthen the way everything, all this stone and creaking wood, fits into place. The poem does not have the light satirical touch of Pope or Swift with their AABBCC couplets, nor does it have the exalted license of Whitman with his free verse. It's something shaped into the right degree of containment to suggest that beliefs of the two or three people at the poem's core. And one can't close, of course, without noting the irony in the poem's title, because at one level it's a song's title, but it also has something of a young children's refusal to explain when they, on being asked why they misbehave, they just say, because. But on the other hand, the whole poem is also an explanation of why the poet is the way he is, proceeding down to that central deadness, and why his father before him had stiffened into stone. It's a further irony that nothing can be done with such knowledge anyway. But there is surely a sense in which we're better off for having had the realisation. Philosophers and theologians and historians have all written books about secular Protestantism, giving it one name or another, and no one has reduced it to its essence as powerfully and poignantly as James McAuley does in his poems. And that commentary was in their 60 classic Australian poems was by Geoff Page, who did all the commentaries in here except the one about his own poem. Alright, so I'm going to now come over here to Rosemary Dobson. This is called The Three Fates. Three Fates. At the instant of drowning, he invoked the three sisters. It was a mistake, an aberration, to cry out for life everlasting. He came up like a cork and back to the riverbank, put on his clothes in reverse order, returned to the house. He suffered the enormous agonies of passion, writing poems from the end backwards, brushing away tears that have not yet fallen, loving her wildly as the day regressed towards morning. He watched her swinging in the garden, growing younger, barefoot, straw-hatted. And when she was gone, and the house and the swing and daylight, there was an instant's pause before it began all over, the reeling, unrolling towards the river. Well, I'm not going to read you out the notes for that tonight, but what I am going to do is move on to a little bit of poetry that I've written this week for you. A little bit of stuff, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Woo, yeah! Let's see what we got, Oh, we start with the concept warning now. He sat upon a mountain. People thought he was cracked. How could the mountain compensate for the things he lacked? Yeah. Monday is an awesome day. What a day. Sit in the sun, laugh and play without work. There is no pay, but I'll just while the time away. A few little short ones to begin with, hey? Oh, wombat legs. Wait. I gotta go get my wombat. Wait, don't go away. This is Theo. Theo is a wombat. Wombat legs, very short. Perhaps that's why they don't play sport. They can't bowl, kick balls or bat lean with short legs. They're not fat. They charge, but they don't jump so well. Their poo is cubic with a wombat smell. They eat shoots, roots, leaves, don't cook. Wombats like to read a book. Immersed in knowledge and new thought, wombats don't like to play sport. Yes, it's true. Not at all. Their legs are too short to kick a ball. Yep, that's that. Oh, Belly Button Fluff. Number 5. Excuse me, I have to look for my Belly Button Fluff today. Oh, it's there. Look at that. It's Belly Button Fluff. Number 5. See, very, Ta-da, Belly Button Fluff. All right. So, I keep finding this stuff in my belly button and picking it out, but because of that, it inspires me to write poems about it. Belly Button Fluff, number 5. Dear friends, I don't know. Does it come from the winds when they blow? But every day I find this stuff in my belly is Belly Button Fluff. This morning I went and had a shower. I looked down within an hour and there it was, sure enough. Another ball of Belly Button Fluff. Does it grow in my tummy? I don't think so, I'm no dummy. I pick it out and let it go, could hoard, but I wouldn't know if I could ever get enough to make a pillow from Belly Button Fluff. Belly Button Fluff, number 4. From where it comes from, I don't know. Perhaps there's a seed that makes it grow, but every day I find this stuff in a cave. It's Belly Button Fluff. Lift my shirt and look inside my belly button. It can't hide, little soft blue-grey ball. You can't hide from me at all. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Yeah, okay. What else have I got for you? Nobody is responsible for your happiness but you. Not your husband, wife, son, daughter, friends or doctor who. are responsible for themselves, their attitude and mental health. We're not responsible for you, but you are for yourself. Okay. So, and there's one more here. Alright. Now, language warning, concept warning. This one talks about sex. It talks about donkeys' penises. It talks about fellatio and oral sex. So if you're offended and you're worried or you don't want to hear it, turn off now. Otherwise I'm going to be swearing and talking about sex and stuff. This is called, it's got no name. It's just called language and concept warning. There once was a donkey whose name was Billy. And he had a rather large donkey, Willie. He met a girl donkey whose name was Vic. And she fell in love with Billy's big donkey, Dick. And this is what donkey Vic said. I love you, but I'll never give you head. It's so long it would come out my bum, go right through me, and then you'd come. But it wasn't all bad. They both had a fuck in the back of old MacDonald's donkey truck. They did it 4 times. The journey was far. Vic and Billy ended up at the abattoir. These were the last words that Donkey Vic said. I wish we'd stayed home and I gave you head. Instead of going in a truck just to have a fuck, you could have had a lick and I a good suck. That's it. Alright. Well, that's it from me here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. I'm Thundercloud, thinking about donkey dicks and stuff, and that's, yeah. I don't know where that stuff comes from. It just downloaded into my head. And once I start writing, that's what comes out. Alright, well, wash away the garbage, leave rainbows after rains. Everybody knows Mum calls me James. Don't forget, join us tomorrow night here, Wednesday Words Open Mic Poetry Night. You can come here and you can just watch, or you can join in, or you can watch from home, but it doesn't have the same atmosphere as coming down here and meeting all the poets and being cool. Of course, everybody wants to be cool. Yeah. Hey, I'm Thundercloud, and I'm out of here. Thanks for joining us tonight on Chillin Tuesday Poetcast from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame and the Seahorse Medicine Cafe. Don't forget, Wayne Pringle is coming on the 12th of November. He's a comedy hypnotist. Get your tickets now because it's going to be absolutely fantastic and funny. You better, yeah. Then on the 19th, we've got the Armadale Chamber Choir Fiore Musicale coming back on a Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. And that's also fantastic. If you've been here before, you'll know what I mean. But just speak to some of the people who have been. It's not to be missed out because the Armadale Chamber Choir Fiore Musicale is fantastic. In this building, it's like having surround sound. And you'll love it. So, 2 weekends in a row, the 17th, the 12th of November, Wayne Pringle, comedy hypnotist, yes, 7:30 to 9, plus food from here in our Seahorse Medicine Cafe beforehand, and as well as Wayne Pringle on the weekend after, Saturday afternoon, the 19th of November, we've got Fiore Musicale, and then a whole program coming up through December and January of tie-dye workshops and art workshops and poetry workshops, as well as events in January and bush dances, etc, etc, etc. So stay tuned. There will be no poetry Chillin Tuesday next week or Wednesday Words next week, but there will be the week after because I'm out of here for a week. I'm going on a holiday after 2.5 years. Yes, going to see my mum and dad. I'll see you later. Lots of love from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. I'm Thundercloud. Mum calls me James, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. See you later. Don't forget to like it, subscribe and give it a thumbs up.